This week in CIST 1510 on Chapter 7, we'll look at proving web designs with new page layouts. We're going to look at using the article, aside, and section elements. We'll look at using the fig and fig caption elements, the CSS grid layout, the opacity property. We'll also look at box sizing and text shadow properties. We're also going to look at using the style, figure, and fig caption elements. We're also going to insert a section element, an article element, side element, and also add a fave icon to your web page. All right, so our web design, it's going to require a daily pursuit of perfection, not only our layout, function, and efficiency. So you're going to have to constantly reevaluate your content as new technology comes out, as new HTML standards come out. You want to make sure that you keep your audience engaged. So HTML5 is going to provide tools for improving the web page designs for specific types of content. So what you're going to do this week is you're going to modify your home page. You'll style the home page element, modify the about page. This is for the website inside of the book. You would create and style the nutrition page and add a fave icon. You'll do many of these functions inside of your actual lab assignment as well. HTML5 semantic elements, they're a set of starting and ending HTML tags. They provide a standard naming convention for your web page content. It makes the web pages more universal, accessible, and meaningful to search engines. First one we're going to look at is the article element. That's a complete self-contained composition in a document, a page, application, or site. So it's independently distributed or reusable. With this, we'll start and end the tags of an article element with an article tags. Now the content that's been placed between these tags will appear on the web page as part of the article element. These may be nested within other HTML elements, such as the main, the section, or other article elements. And this is something that's commonly going to be used for news articles, blogs, forums, posts, or comments. So we're going to take a look at some of these tags. We'll start off with the article tag. As we see how that the article tags are placed inside of a document. Okay, so in this case, we've got three articles with independent self-contained content. Okay, so these can also be nested. In this, like I said, is for forum posts, most of the time blog posts, news stories. We'll look at the try it yourself. We'll see how that the code is written. So we see that this Google Chrome, this is in one article. So we can actually add a class to this if we needed to style this different in the document itself. The next one we're going to talk about is the aside tag. We'll see an example of a nested article element here. So we have the main and the articles in this. The aside, it's usually as a sidebar, contains additional information about a particular item that's mentioned within another element. The example here is the article on the web page contains a recipe, a list of ingredients. You could include an aside element with more information about a key ingredient, such as where to purchase it. These can be nested within article elements or within the main or section elements. So we see an aside element. We tried it ourselves in this document. We see that this is a side element. This is something that's going to describe, give more information about the Epcot Center that's being talked about in the first paragraph. We'll see how these are in our wireframe laid in. Now, a section element, this represents a generic section of a document or application. It is a thematic grouping of content. It should be, each theme of the section should be identified by heading. This is not a generic container element. Okay, general rules that the section element is appropriate only if the element's contents will be listed explicitly in the document's outline. we see an example of a section element here. So we have our article, tutorials, cooking basics, and then here we have a paragraph, then we have a section of tutorial 1, some of the basic kitchen tools. So we see examples of sections located here. So we'll pull over the code for this. And in here we can see that we have our main, we have our article fall baseball schedules located here. Okay, then we're putting our class into a grid, this article's into a grid. And then we're breaking down each section. So we've got these where they are grouped together based on their sections. We see the Little League, the Youth League, and the Adult League. So these are used to define a section in the document. We can see in this section here, breaking down the history of the Worldwide Fund for Nature, the WWF. We have the section for the history. We have a section for the symbol. Once again, these are not generic containers. All right, the figure element, that's used to group content such as illustrations, diagrams, and photos. It's going to represent some flow of content. It's going to be self-contained. It's typically going to reference as a single unit from the main flow of the document. This can contain one or more image elements. It may contain an optional figure element, optional figure caption element, which is used to provide a caption for the figure. It would also have like the start and end tags of this would be the fig caption and the closing fig caption for this as well. So you see here we have a figure element in here, and then for example this one I just took the code for the Jack Williams. In this code here, when we look at the code from your lab for this week, we'll see that we do have the figure element. Okay, so then we have the Jack Williams, and each one of these are going to have the image and the fig caption located in. So we see that we do have the, run this image here. This is what your web page will look like. So in the fig caption, we have a figure, the image, and then the fig caption, and they are broke down in this order. So we can look at the fig caption. Do the try it yourself in W3 schools. So we see the fig caption located under here. Now in our CSS, we also have this located, so we can set the CSS for that fig caption as well, for this tag. Okay, so in the figure tag elements, we have the fig caption. Okay, this is the text that the user will see. Now, if we look at our CSS, we can modify this. So if I say I want my text color to be blue, we change that, the background color. So this is something that's all modifiable through CSS. You can modify the way the fig caption looks. All right, so our grid layout, it's a newer web page design model. It's used to create a single or multi-column layout of controlling the size and position of the box of content on a web page. All right, so as we saw in the image here, we do have this class is set for the class of grid. So we do have a way to contain this, to determine the layout. and the spacing between the images. So looking at the CSS for the grid, and so in here they do have it set to the columns, set to autos. The gap, they've got set to 20 pixels, the amount of white space between the two is set in here as well. And if I was to change this, I could change the amount of layout between these. For example, if I change this to 10 and this one here, we launch this in Chrome now. I didn't save that. So let me save the styles. You'll see a slight change in the spacing now. So I can use the grid class for my layout design. The opacity is going to specify the amount of transparency of an element. Once again, if I pull up my, let me go back to W3C instead. Okay, so I do have the opacity process property pulled up. Now the opacity is going to be set between 0.0 or 0 to 1. Okay, so right now I'm set at 0.5. You see that it's about halfway through. Okay, when I put this to 0, it's completely disappeared. If I put it to 1, I have full view of the image, no transparency. But I can set this based on the percentage here of going from 0 to 1. So if I put 0.5, say I'm about 50% of my opacity. 1 is fully visible, 0 is completely hidden. And that is my opacity property. So I would define this with setting opacity and then the value. I'll look at it here. We see some examples here of different opacity settings. 1 is no transparency at all. Once again, 50 is 50%, 0 is completely transparent. You will not see it. All right, CSS shadows is a box shadow that applies to a shadow of an element. The text shadow property applies to the shadow of text. So we'll take a look at the CSS shadows. This here. So you see this text shadow effect. Okay, so I can reset these to different effects by setting the pixels. This is the top. This top number here, the 3 pixels. And you can also see here that you can set your effects. You can also set the color of the effects. So I'm moving this kind of offset to the, in this case, to the right. So that moves the shadow down. That's going to give me a kind of a blurish effect on the shadow. And then I can also change the color of the shadow as well. I can also specify with the hexadecimals. So you got all kinds of different effects you can play with. You can apply multiple shadows, as you see in this example here. And the W3 Schools gives you a lot of different examples you can use when you're creating text shadows. You can apply a border or a stroke around the text by using the text shadow. A lot of different flexibility you have working with the shadow effects. The border or the box sizing, that's going to let you specify a padding or border to be included with the element's total design. Now back to the shadows. Not only can I do it with text, I can also do it with a box shadow. All right, so we see an example here of the shadow of the box for box 1. You can see the box shadow property is set in my CSS, and I can adjust this. When we run it, you see that it does move this to the left, and when I run that, you see it's going to move it more down. So it's going to give me the distance between my box. This is used to really give something like a 3D type appearance, kind of an appearance that the images, your web page isn't flat, that there are elements that jump off of the page. You can use this to bring emphasis to these areas. The Fig and Fig caption elements, you can add these to a picture. It brings more visual content for potential clients. We see some examples here. We've talked about the Fig captions already. So we can add the figure, the image, and the Fig captions. The Fave icon. This is something that's going to a small image going to appear as the browser tab. This represents the business. For example, in Blackboard, we see that we have the Blackboard icon. Okay, so this is how to add those icons to your website. Or in the W3, we have their logo here as well. And these are going to be done with the link attributes. So in here we have a link, and we're going to set the relationship to icon, the link to the image, the top, and then we're going to set the size for the icon itself. Now, the one you guys will be using in your file will be this icon image here. And this code is provided for you in your MindTap assignment. So you'll just need to make sure that you copy this and paste this into each one of your HTML files. We're breaking it down. We create the link. We're defining the relationship as an icon. In this case, we want to set the top as image/PNG, set the size, and then in this case, we're putting the reference last. So that will create the image icon that appears in your tab, your browser tab. All right, so in chapter 5, we looked at chapter 7, we looked at different types of HTML5 ways to format your page to improve it. We looked at using the figure, Fig caption, section, article, and aside elements. How to add these to our web page. Modify our style rules to add new formats to the elements. Looked at grid layout. Looked at adding opacity, box shadows, text shadows, and adding a Fave icon to our website.